World Bank and Western aid projects in Africa aim to boost development and reduce poverty through investments in key sectors. They fund initiatives like building roads, improving energy infrastructure, and implementing agricultural programs to enhance connectivity, address power shortages, and ensure food security. Educational and healthcare projects focus on constructing schools, providing resources, and strengthening healthcare facilities. Poverty alleviation efforts include support for microfinance and entrepreneurship. The West and World Bank have contributed to economic growth through investments in infrastructure and essential sectors like education and healthcare. Despite these positive goals, challenges like conditionalities and concerns about accumulating debt have been raised. The impact of these projects is complex, with ongoing discussions about their effectiveness and the need for better consideration of local perspectives in shaping Africa's sustainable development. So we will be focusing on how the Western aid programs have failed in Africa. First of all, the World Bank and IMF's approach, emphasizing free market principles, has negatively impacted Africa's development, contradicting the intended goals of the structural adjustment programs. Although some African countries experience slight macroeconomic stability, doubts persist about its sustainability, especially considering the cases of Senegal, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. In Uganda, where there was some stability, it was largely due to volatile external finance. Unfortunately, this stability often came at the cost of domestic investment in critical infrastructure, hindering sustainable growth. Throughout the adjustment period, many African countries saw a deterioration in their infrastructure and human capital, with a brain drain of skilled labor and a demoralized civil service. Despite modest recovery in some areas, poverty intensified, and key human development indicators remained in the negative quartile. Additionally, while the World Bank and IMF demanded budget cuts in public sectors, the SAP allowed increased public spending on arms, contributing to the proliferation of weapons, conflicts, and human rights violations in Africa, often fueled by significant arms exports, particularly from the United States. Despite receiving billions of dollars in aid annually, Africa remains trapped in poverty, fostering dependence on international assistance. Rather than fostering economic growth, the aid has led to sluggish development, mounting debt, and economic ruin marked by inflation. This increases governmental instability, civil unrest, and of course, paralyzes social development. In the last 6 decades, rich countries have poured billions of dollars in development aid into Africa. Despite this, per capita income is currently lower than in the 1970s, and over 50% of the population, totaling 350 million people, survive on less than $1 a day, an alarming statistic that has nearly doubled in 2 decades. The underlying issue is that the aid funds allocated for Africa primarily address immediate needs such as famine relief, medical emergencies, and access to clean drinking water. While these are crucial necessities, they tackle the symptoms rather than the root causes of poverty. Without a significant focus on productive investment, the population will remain reliant on external aid, unable to break the cycle of poverty. Additionally, there's a concerning aspect where some of these funds inadvertently support and prolong totalitarian regimes. Due to the necessity of going through these regimes to distribute resources to the population, a considerable portion of aid money is susceptible to corruption and inefficiencies, hampering its intended impact on the people it is meant to benefit. Although the World Bank and some Western countries have laid aid programs in Africa, several of them turned out to be failed. Here's 2 of them. The Chad-Cameroon oil pipeline, bankrolled by the World Bank at a whopping $4.2 billion in 2003, was meant to be Chad's golden ticket for development. By 2005, President Idris Deby had a change of plans, diverting oil money to the general budget and weapons instead of development. If oil companies didn't comply, they were out. Now, Deby's using the funds to prop up his regime and tinker with elections, turning a promising project into a cautionary tale about the unpredictability of political priorities. And the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, backed by the World Bank, European Investment Bank, and African Development Bank with a price tag of $3.5 billion, took a problematic turn. Launched in 1986, the project aimed to redirect mountain water for sale to South Africa and power generation. However, the electricity became prohibitively expensive for the majority, and the extensive water diversion led to downstream environmental and economic turmoil. The development fund, fueled by water sales, closed its doors in 2003. Adding to the complications, 3 major construction firms face corruption charges in court, leading to convictions, and the project's CEO found themselves behind bars. Tens of thousands of people whose lives were ruined by the diversion are still waiting for compensation. International aid to Africa has faced criticism for unintentionally harming local producers. This happens when foreign countries send subsidized or free products to the region, directly competing with locally made goods. This can hurt African industries as the influx of outside goods may flood local markets, making it tough for local producers to compete fairly. For instance, if aid includes free food, it can lower prices, making it hard for local farmers to sell their products at fair rates. This can weaken local agriculture and create a reliance on foreign aid instead of promoting self-sufficiency. The free or subsidized goods can also disrupt local markets, hindering the growth of industries that might otherwise thrive with consistent local support. Africa indeed faces significant challenges and requires multifaceted solutions to foster sustainable development. Economic diversification is crucial for reducing dependence on a few industries and mitigating the impact of external shocks. For example, many African countries heavily rely on commodity exports, making their economies vulnerable to fluctuations in global commodity prices. Therefore, fostering entrepreneurship is essential. Initiatives that support small and medium-sized enterprises can stimulate economic activity, create jobs, and contribute to a more resilient economy. Transparency in governance is another key aspect. Establishing transparent and accountable political systems can enhance public trust, attract foreign investments, and ensure that resources are allocated efficiently. Investing in education and training is vital for building a skilled workforce capable of driving sustainable economic projects. Moreover, countries like Rwanda have implemented policies to facilitate business registration and support entrepreneurship, yielding positive results. While Western aid efforts in Africa have contributed to certain aspects of development, such as humanitarian aid during crises, there are critiques of its overall effectiveness. Some argue that aid has been mismanaged, leading to limited positive impact and concerns about dependency. In contrast, Africa's increasing engagement with China is notable for its focus on instant and practical development through infrastructure projects and investments. Chinese initiatives, like the Belt and Road Initiative, provide tangible benefits, such as the swift construction of roads, ports, and other critical infrastructure. And it is undeniable that Chinese aid programs also attach strings and also create dependency and debt issues. Many African countries see Chinese aid as a quicker and more practical way to develop compared to traditional Western assistance, even if it comes with financial complexities. This shows how African nations are changing their preferences for development.